So, ladies and gentlemen, there are three main topics I'd like to discuss. The first one is the role of insurers towards their clients, and my next question is for you, Dorsan. Last year, there was TriFinance was organizing a similar event for the banking industry, and one of the panel members was a CEO of Nickel Belgium, which is a French challenger bank, and their business model is based on physical contact combined with digital support. So how important is that physical contact still for the insurance business? Because we're talking about an online player, but the physical contact, customer satisfaction. So how do you see it?
So I think making an opposition between physical and online is nonsense. I think basically you have channels, you have strategies, but what you're bringing to the market, and I don't hear my colleagues saying anything else, is something that is either customer-centric or at least building trust. Sometimes you can do that through digital processes, sometimes you need a physical, but sometimes you have a phone call which builds the same trust. What we're doing as insurers is that we're selling trust. We're selling a promise, or we're selling the fact that we will be there in case of. So it's trust at the end of the day. And the way to create that trust can differ from player to player. We believe that it goes through personal contact, whether they're digital or physical, but personal. Because we think that the customer has a specific situation, and we need to answer to that specific situation. He has personal needs, he has a protection need, he has a future-proof desire, and we need to understand that and to be able to give him a solution that fits that need. Because when you link that to the conversation of the role of insurer, at the end of the day, we are living in a tremendous world of uncertainties, tremendous uncertainties. And that's something where our role is to take piece of that from the customer. Mm-hmm. Whatever their preferred mean is. And this is then, I think, personal choice. It's not a sector thing. It's personal choice. Our strategy is to go through personal contact. Mm-hmm.
So it's the customer, the client, who decides whether he or she wants to have an agent or a broker to work with somebody physical. Yes. So Cedric, do you think that, well, Alan is just focusing on that branch that of B2B contacts that are just fine with online contact, or are you leaving out some business as well? Is this a future-proofed strategy, you think?
Yeah. Well, maybe it's worth clarifying that we're not like a digital-only or a digital-first company. I don't think that's a good idea, or any business should think about digital that way. I'll come back to customer centricity. For us, it's about that and being able to provide this great service. And typically, in many instances, it's through digital channels that you can provide a fast, seamless, smooth experience to customers. So to us, it's a means to an end, and it's not our objective.
But I heard the word trust, which is very important. Isn't it helpful that potential clients, are meeting someone?
Yeah, sure, definitely. And we try to give that personal touch through these digital channels. But I'm quite confident that customers come to us not so much because we are digital, but really because they can have a very easy conversation and a nice conversation with people from our support team who effectively leverage these digital channels. But that is what is really important to them, that they are listened to, that they are heard, and that they get a solution to the problems that they have. So it's that combination of digital with human, and it's actually the reason why Alan is called Alan. We talked about it before, but Alan refers to Alan Watts, who is a humanist who brought like the Eastern values and principles to the West. So that's the humanist. And then there's Alan Turing, who's a technologist, and that was the guy who helped crack the code from the Enigma machine from the Germans. So that's why Alan exists. It's like bringing these two together and making sure that the patient or the customer, depending on who you're talking about, is really central in the service model. Same goes actually for brokers, because I think it was part of the question, or it would have been part of the question, but we are not like trying to avoid brokers. We are even collaborating very constructively with some, but we go direct to the market for the simple reason that we want to be as close to our customer as possible, because ultimately that's your most precious asset as a company. And the closer you are, the more feedback that you will get, the more insights that you will receive. And no matter what you do, no matter how constructive a middleman wants to be, there will always be some kind of filter. So we don't have anything against brokers, but it doesn't fit the business model that we believe fits our company.
Yeah, so Hilde PNV is still working with brokers, with agency, working online as well, digital. Which distribution channel do you think will be dominant in 10 years' time?
Good luck.
Distribution, I don't think the question of which one will be dominant is important. My point of view is that distribution will always be there, because it's been said by the colleagues. It's all about trust. And people do not trust machines. People do trust other people. And of course we need digital, but we need digital to make sure we are even more close to the people. They trust us to be there when they need us. So it's an inclusive digital. It's not using digital to exclude some people. It's the other way around. Mm-hmm. And people still need to be there when customers need us. So yes, I do believe that thanks to digital, brokers and agents will have even more time to focus on the human relations with their customers, create more trust, and being even more relevant in the future, and certainly in this world of uncertainty.
Yeah. It seems that it is a very sensitive topic, because you definitely mentioned, well, good luck with that. I saw Heidi.
It is in the room as well.
Watching like this, I'm just reading the body language here. So what was your reaction about
No,
Dorsan?
because it's intrinsically complicated, because we have categories of distribution which we inherit from the past. So the sector and the whole market is reporting on segments now like we did 20 years ago. But you can have brokers which are extremely digital. You can have online with advice. You can have a mixture of all of these. So it's very common to say, you know, broker will pertain because that's our main channel today. And I think they will. But those who adapt, those who embrace that mixed aspect of distribution. Mm.
But digital is not a channel.
No.
Digital is a tool.
It's a mean.
An enabler.
We don't speak about digital channels. Mm-hmm. We use digital.
Mm-hmm. Do you agree, Cedric?
Sure, but if
I see you thinking like, is this true? What's my?
No, it's a difficult question to predict the future, of course. But I do believe that brokers will need to reinvent themselves as digital is and direct distribution models are gaining traction. I think some brokers really do reinvent themselves. There's many brokers that have a very clear vision of where they are heading towards and what they want to do in the future and how they can be a trusted advisor to their clients. And I think that's a great evolution to see. But I guess in 10 years, the dominant distribution channel will be the metaverse. That's sure.
You even see it bigger. Heidi.
Well, of course, there is a part of truth of everyone, everything that has been said here. But on the other hand, insurance is not insurance. It's not insurance. You have DCI, which is if you buy a DCI for a mortgage until 300,000, yeah, that will become completely digital. Yeah. But if you buy
On the other
for
hand,
2 million a succession or donation care, or if you want to cover yourself and your family for, or if you want to invest in some funds and you want to know what's behind the funds and you want to know how you can switch, etc., you will need a person to talk to, whether it's by phone or whether it... So it depends on the complexity of the solution. And you see that brokers also focus on what happened in the banking side also. It's not the agent of the bank didn't earn a lot of money on the compte à vue anymore, so they also changed their business model. That's what we see happening in the broker as well. So they are focusing there where there is the most added value to give, and there, as an insurance company, we support them in putting that on the market. So I still believe, because we're already saying 20 years that the insurance brokers won't exist anymore, but they still are there and have a big part of the portfolio of the insurance market still today. Yeah.
Jean-Philippe, an expression that you like to use is insurance as a butler. You used that last year in the discussion about the future of banking as well. So what exactly do you mean by that?
Yeah, I use it for long, and for me, indeed, a butler is the kind of confidant I was talking about, and the personal advisor.
Again, it comes back to trust.
And I come back to trust, because we talk about trust, and indeed, we all need advice, even if it's simple products. And sometimes we have some management BAs, and some banks and insurers attending in the room will probably confirm that. There are surveys showing that we believe sometimes that the digital channel is for the young generation. Young generation don't move to the agencies, etc. But the survey made show that the youngest generation was the one asking for direct and physical contact and advice. So for me, it's not a question of digital, physical. The reality as often is in between. It's a good combination of that, but we need a mindset, and for me, that's the butler mindset. That's the advising role sometimes, and we all have that experience, I think. We sign the contract, and we don't have any news from the broker or the agent or from the insurer. I can say it because I'm not directly in the sector, but that's something that's happened for a lot of people. And what people expect is to, I become 44. My kids turn 10 and are playing hockey. I would like my insurer is informed about that, and I know there are GDPR, there are rules, there are aspects, but I would like to get advice from my broker, agent, insurers, saying, okay, JP, you know, the teeth in hockey, you need maybe an extra protection. Honestly, I don't raise myself the question. I don't have time to do that. And I think based on getting the trust, meaning I receive more pertinent data, changing the mindset, advising, indeed, and I'm curious to hear about that also during the life cycle, because the need I have today evolve. I start with a small car, the car become more like this, my house is evolving, the price of the materials is increasing, so I would like to get from my insurer a question about, okay, are you sufficiently insured or too much maybe? And that's the role of the butler. Every day not, of course, but that's the concept to get from my insurer advice on, yes, am I sufficiently insured? Is my risk management at level for my health? We talk about also selling protection, but there are prevention. Sometimes we have issues, so we need some remediation. We need some assistance during the remediation. So for me, it's not a question of channel only, this is a question of mindset. And I really believe, also for the banking sector, by the way, the business model should more evolve in the advising role. And also for the retail sector. And sometimes people will say, okay, that's nice what you say, but are people ready to pay for this kind of services? Well, I think the butler has indeed an important role also on that part.
A more advising role, so the proximity is important. And besides that, digitalization, like in many other sectors, it's a hot topic within the insurance industry as well, Hilde. And of course, trust. That's the third word that's being talked about a lot already this evening. So how do you juggle these three aspects, Hilde, to steer the company in the right direction?
But I think we already answered part of that question. It's, having everything in place to make sure you're close to your customer. If you're close to your customer, you can answer or anticipate his needs. If you're close to your customer, you know when you need to be there. And close to your customer, you can use digital tools to be close to your customer. You will have to, because you don't have time to be close to each customer all the time, physically. So you need to use digital tools, but then you need to make sure you're there physically when really needed. So it's kind of, puzzle and being there all the time.
Okay, well, thank you. Cedric, I come back to you. There was an article in the newspaper quite recently, and it mentioned the fact that Belgians care quite little about their insurance, which was interpreted as a sign of confidence. But at the same time, Belgians are very reluctant in declaring a claim because they are afraid about the limit of the coverage, but also a raise in the premium. So what can an insurance company do to give them more confidence and give them more trust to do this?
Well, personally, I don't think it was necessarily a sign of confidence. I would rather think it's driven by a lack of transparency and a lack of simplicity. If you would ask people to run through their insurance policies, read it and present a summary, I'm very worried that no one will really have a summary ready that is accurate. I think people will give up, and that's what people do if things get really complex. And there's a lot of complexity in life, then people give up and they don't really care. They try to try to follow the path of least resistance. So I think there's a responsibility for not only insurance companies but also the regulator, policymakers to try to make those contracts, but also the offering in general, a lot more simple, a lot more transparent and easy to understand for everyone. Because of course you can get advice, but at the same time, having your documents with you in digital or physical format and being able to understand what's written is quite valuable. And take one example, we had to write our own contracts as well when we got started. We tried to push very hard to get to a version of our contracts that was kind of easy to understand by anyone who reads it, not only by lawyers, and I am a lawyer, but we try to do our very best, but there's some limits to that, because there's just legal conditions and legal requirements, and there's specific clauses that contain a lot of legalese that you have to put in there. So that's one thing I think we can do some effort. As for the reluctance to submit claims, well, we actually see the opposite. So we have a bit of another problem or a challenge, let's say. The claim declaration rate that we have at Allen is very high. I think it's definitely a result of the fact that we try to streamline all the submission processes as much as we can. We try to make our app as user-friendly as possible. You just have to take a picture of whatever document you have. It gets sent, processed, and you get it reimbursed the same day. So it's all very seamless and smooth. So in a way, that's really good for that customer centricity. But of course, in a traditional insurance business model, it eats your margin away. It has impact on your loss ratio. So that's not always ideal from a business perspective, right? Mm-hmm. And ultimately, a business has to make a profit to be sustainable. That's one of the reasons why we developed kind of a different business model. So instead of aiming to maximize our margin on insurance premiums, we are okay with like a loss ratio of 95% or so. It's not our focus, but instead what we do, we charge a membership fee, we call it, that actually represents all of the services that we offer. And by services, we don't just mean like the reimbursement or the fast reimbursement or the support that you get, but also health services and health services that are complementary to health insurance. And those are things like a medical chat. So through our app, you can chat with doctors, with well-being experts, psychologists, and so on. And that has a certain value for people, and they're happy to pay for that apart from or in addition to the insurance component. And it's a different business model that takes away a lot of the friction that there typically is. There is always some friction between insurer and insured. So,
but is that something that the traditional insurers see, that people are reluctant in submitting a claim? Heidi?
Not really, I think. It's of course they are. Sorry, but they are less reluctant because they have confidence in their broker, and they speak to it with their broker, and they discuss: is that a claim that can be? If that is that something? An event that can be covered on one of my policies, whether it's NN, PNV or Athora. The broker has the whole view, so he can choose which policy is more relevant for the event, to cover the event. So therefore, exactly on those events, in case of claims, it's the broker who is the trust person and who has the knowledge to help them to read their policies, etc.
I see that Dorsan and Hilde are agreeing. You as well, you're nodding, Jean-Philippe.
Yes, and I think it's maybe before an issue is arising, and maybe in the prevention side, I think it's there that probably the Belgian people are more reluctant to talk about swimming pool that has been this kind of evolution in their properties. But that's also a question of trust, and I think the role of the broker or the role of the advisor, butler, should help to become a confident and open indeed the discussion with the clients to be able indeed to discuss openly about the evolution in the life of the different person and companies as well. So for me, it's really in the prevention or indeed in the first discussion with the broker or the insurer.